The next definition we have in line is just called sill. Sill, a metal channel secured to the floor in which the sill section of a hollow metal frame is positioned over. Well, looking at their drawing, it's nothing other than a piece of, C-channel that's been bolted to the floor. Of the countless side light frames and borrowed lights that we've made, I've never personally encountered the need for a sill anchor or a C-shaped piece of material that you place the side light frame down over. Every time that we've ever supplied such a frame, it's always been with a floor anchor on the outside and then a mullion anchor, and as many of those as are required. Mullion anchors, obviously. Floor anchors would be on the outside. If you had a 3-foot door and a 4-foot side light, or a 3-foot door and more commonly an 18-inch side light, or maybe a 24-inch side light, the need for a sill anchor, I think you can discount greatly, because I think what they're trying to do is to keep that sill section from moving. I would argue that the mullion anchor and that floor anchor on your outside jamb and then on your strike mullion do a really good job. But I could also see if you were building an 8-foot wide unit, or in certain instances, we did a children's hospital many, many years ago, and I think this unit was 24 feet in width with a 60-foot radius. You can have those massive units where you need to get really good contact with the floor. Now, I don't imagine that much is happening other than the sill sitting on top of it, which will prevent any sort of movement in and out. But I can also think of an instance where you might have a sill anchor because you might want to dissuade sliding anything underneath that sill section, and that would certainly discourage being able to compress the flooring or whatever might be there and getting something slipped underneath. So a sill anchor would be very advantageous. Plus, when you have a mullion anchor and a floor anchor, you will have just a very small quantity of mechanical fasteners holding that entire unit in place without it moving. So I can absolutely see the advantage of having a C-section of metal that's been bolted down to the floor or shot down to the floor with a powder actuated tool to give your side light frame something to sit on. Let's switch to the screen view and just look at their definition really quick. If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video. Okay, here is the SDI glossary for sill: a metal channel secured to the floor in which the sill section of a hollow metal frame is positioned over. Really no concept of securing this at all to the opening, or meaning the sill. And let's imagine that this is 4-inch or 6-inch or 8-inch or 12-inch, whatever this sill section would need to be. This is just when it's placed over this, the returns are going to really prevent that from sliding back and forth. And that would be the concept. Certainly advantageous on much wider units. I've personally never seen them use ever. Of all the hollow metal frames that I've either manufactured in my own shop or I've ordered from several and many different manufacturers, this type of anchor has never come into play. And in fact, I've gone through lots of hollow metal manufacturers' technical manuals over the years, and I've never seen a reference to this. However, I would think that if you were to speak to an engineer at a hollow metal manufacturer, they would know very much what you're talking about. So if you're doing side light work, you might want to determine up front if your client needs those. I can't say if this is considered standard practice. I would argue that it's not, but you might want to give an option to your client, because then it can be an option of a path of additional revenue. You can certainly argue for it, and most people would probably say no, that's not necessary. But it might be. You might literally, here's another use for it. You might have a really strange floor condition, and I'll try to illustrate that here. Let's say you have a 3-foot door. Let's say you have 2 3-foot doors. Whoops. And we're going to have That's awful. Let's say 6 feet of window in here. Just bear with me, this is going somewhere. You've got a sill here. Let's say it's 8 inch. Here's your floor that this is going to sit on. Here's your floor. Let's say that that floor gets really crazy like that. Obviously, I'm exaggerating it. But you might be able to do quite well by having this leg specifically high enough to account for any sort of imperceptible floor condition that is extremely out of level. So you might have, at a distance, at 10 feet, you might have a visual continuity of hollow metal framework there, even though you would otherwise, you know, you'd be able to see daylight coming out from the other side. So you probably consider a sill anchor to be beneficial for that regard, in that regard as well. And I really find that people in the hollow metal industry, and most in particular clients, they are always extremely ingenious when it comes to applying hollow metal, and that's one reason I like hollow metal so much, is because it's so completely adaptable. You know, you want your material, you want the look of aluminum storefront, but you want the strength of galvanized 14 gauge steel. You know, you can do that. Hollow metal is very capable. Let's wrap up this definition on camera. I hope that definition of sill, or at least my reflection of what it might be used for outside of its intended purpose, to be of some benefit. So let's move on to the next definition. Thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up, please subscribe, and maybe even send the video to someone that you know. Thank you.